This is a subject that really got us thinking this morning. A self-described virtuous paedophile who admits to being sexually attracted to girls as young as 6 has spoken about how he lives with his urges and his plans to help other people cope with theirs. Now, he set up a non-profit organisation to help people like him who choose not to offend. What might surprise you is he's married and his wife knows all about his sexual urges. So, on the first level, Anne, do you think you could stand by a paedophile if he was non-offending?
No. I just couldn't, because he might be non-offending, but it's going on in there, and
Anytime there was a child around, you'd be really worried, wouldn't you?
But how could you even respect somebody that was having those thoughts?
No.
You just couldn't.
Obviously, you know, it's a divisive subject. It's an emotive subject. If you thought of it as a mental illness, say, would you have more sympathy then?
No, I think I'd feel guilty, but maybe I should feel a bit more compassionate, because I mean, I know it's true that a lot of paedophiles have had terrible backgrounds, and there's obviously some reason, or maybe it's just a spontaneous mental illness of some sort.
Yeah.
So maybe you feel you should be compassionate, but I just still couldn't be.
I couldn't live with
I'd rather they weren't on the planet, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a mental illness.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone chooses to be a paedophile. It's definitely a recognised mental illness. But I'm with you. I mean, in terms of remaining married to somebody, in terms of how I perceive a marriage to be, it would be like a rot in my brain.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was, say, a member of my family or something, maybe, or a good friend, I might be able to stand by them in terms of being supportive, because, you know, playing devil's advocate, those who work with paedophiles will tell you that invariably they have been abused themselves. It's the only thing that they know.
Yeah.
And that they can be treated. So I think any way that we look at treating people that have these urges, rather than kind of ostracising them even further into dark corners where they might do something even worse, it is a good thing.
And there are some wonderful people
who
work with them, aren't they? But
amazing.
I had a friend of a friend of a friend whose husband was found guilty. She didn't know, nobody knew. He was abusing his role as a teacher.
Oh my God.
And I think he'd abused many times. I can't remember all the details, but he was found guilty and he was sent to jail. I think he's still in jail now. But it wrecked her life. It wrecked her family's life.
Children's life,
everything. And she couldn't handle it. I mean, that was. I mean, he had acted on his urges.
I think that's what's so interesting, is obviously your gut reaction is to say no, I wouldn't. But then when you think about the ripples of this, a wife, a partner, the children, the ripple effect of all of that, although that's your gut reaction, your second reaction, your third reaction, maybe not quite so clear. Because if you found out, like this man who's written about being what he calls a virtuous paedophile, and the fact that his wife has accepted it, that's such a difficult. You know, you read about it all the time about, you know, women discovering that their partners either have these kind of urges that they've either acted or not acted upon. Is it quite as clear-cut as that, to either stand by your man or not?
That's the one thing, I think, with Mark. Anything else, I think, if he murdered someone, I think, you know, obviously it's who he murdered or whatever, do you know what I mean? But there's the one thing, I couldn't stand by him if it came out that he was a paedophile. There's no way I would ever have anything to do with it.
Non-offending.
That's it,
Still, even to think that he had those thoughts in his head and he found 6-year-old little girls or little boys attractive, I still couldn't cope with that.
What does that mean? Because a lot of people, I don't know about this chat, but a lot of people describe themselves as non-offending because they're not actually touching children. But for me, looking at images, you are creating the industry that forces these children into these situations, you know, because you're creating a market for it. So
and also
that, to me, is offending.
Those ripples will spread out as well, because you don't live in an isolated bubble. You'll have family who have young children. You'll have friends who have young children. Do you tell them, it's all right, he's not offending, but you can still bring your kids round to our house? How does that affect your circles?
And the very fact this guy calls himself virtuous, he's saying he's virtuous because he's not actually practising what his head is telling him to do. But virtuous isn't the right word.
But there's a charity here called Circles UK that's been given £3.5 million lotto cash, and it's a social network for lonely paedophiles and rapists. Now, what they're saying is, though, pretty much what I was saying earlier, is that if you ostracise them from society, is probably not a good thing, and that actually to provide a support network, which I think is what this guy that you've been talking about is trying to do, and help and try and remedy or rectify the situation.
Well, should that be the condition?
Is better.
That they should actually, if they're going to get support, and I totally get that, but maybe they should always enrol in some sort of
I'd
therapy.
rather give the
They should
money
be actively
to
trying
victims
to...
of paedophilia. I'd rather have give that £3.5 million cash to kids that have been abused, actually.
If you thought that got heated, wait until you watch these and click here to subscribe. You may as well. It's totally free.